Hey, grade nines. So we're going to start our reproduction unit. The reproduction unit's mostly kind of, I don't want to say theory, but notes and whatnot. So you may find the recorded lessons helpful, you may not. I'll try to explain some things as we go through the lessons, but most of it you could even just copy from the website. Regardless, going back to grade, I believe it's grade 8, you guys did some cell theory. And we're just going to review that a little bit. Just remember that all organisms are composed of cells. That's kind of the smallest or basic unit of life of living things. Now, just to make sure you understand that cells are microscopic, so we have to use a microscope to see them. But I want you to understand, like we just finished the chemistry unit, where atoms are sub microscopic. So think of a cell, and then inside the cell we have nucleus, which we probably talked about as the brain or control center of the cell. Inside the nucleus is these things called chromosomes, and chromosomes are made of huge long strands of something called DNA, and DNA is made of billions and millions and trillions and whatever of molecules called different proteins and things like that, and little atoms that make up all of that. And so we're talking about, like, atoms are ridiculously much smaller than cells. So anyways, just to kind of put things into perspective. So cells are the basic unit of structure and function of all living organisms, and all cells have to come from a previously existing cell. They don't just appear on their own, so a cell has to actually divide to make another cell, which doesn't really make sense. How do you divide to make more? Well, we're going to divide in half and make 2. So it's a little bit different than what you're thinking of division in terms of mathematics. Now, everything that your body does is dependent on the activity of all the cells in your body. And you would have seen pictures like this last year in grade 8. And you probably even built some sort of a cell model. Now, within a cell, there are all these little parts that are doing different jobs, and we call them organelles. Just like inside your body, there you have organs, your lungs, your liver, your heart, your kidneys. They all have different functions that keep you going. Well, inside the cell, it's no different. They're just much smaller little organs, and we call them organelles. And the ones that we should really focus on this semester are the nucleus. And the nucleus is that organelle that contains all of your DNA. So the picture of the side is actually, we took out the cell and we're just looking into the nucleus. And that's where all your DNA is, your chromosomes, your chromatin, all your genetic information. This is what is the instruction manual for that cell. It tells each cell how to behave, what to do, what kind of cell they are. It's all of the information that each cell needs to be that type of cell that it is. Around the nucleus, we have a membrane. A membrane is almost like the skin. So the membrane of the nucleus is called the nuclear membrane, and that outlines our nucleus. And within that membrane and inside the nucleus, we have DNA. And DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, and that's your genetic code. There's a pattern of different nucleic acids inside there that create the code that makes us us. Now, the chromosomes, you've heard of those probably. They consist of many genes, and those genes are sequences of DNA. So it goes kind of DNA makes genes, genes make chromosomes. The cell membrane is kind of the skin on the outside of the cell, and that allows like waste to leave the cell and nutrients to enter the cell. Basically separates the cell from its surroundings and allows those materials in and out. And now in plants, they don't have a membrane. They have something called a cell wall, and it's more rigid. So the way I always explain it is that think of animals are squishy and plants are usually hard. So trees are hard and animals are squishy. Membranes versus walls. So a cell wall for a plant is rigid. It gives it that structure. You'll see that more in plants. And animals, you won't see a cell wall. You'll just see a cell membrane. So we've got 2 different types of cells. We've got animal cells and plant cells. They all kind of have similar things inside. Plant cells have some special things, though. Plant cells have something called a chloroplast, which is used for photosynthesis. That's because they make their own energy. Again, plant cells have cell walls, whereas animal cells only have a cell membrane. So just kind of some really quick things that you probably talked about last year. So cell membranes in animals, and centrioles in animals. For mitosis, we'll talk about that later. And then plants have cell walls and chloroplasts. And that's the end of our reproduction introduction.